All right, let's get to our other big story this afternoon. The White House preparing to host a state dinner for King Charles and Queen Camilla in just a couple of hours. Now, state dinners, as we know, are some of the most lavish formal affairs honoring foreign dignitaries. So what goes into these state dinners, and how might previous royal visits give us a glimpse into tonight's big event? We're joined now by White House historian and First Lady expert Jennifer Pickens. Great to see you, Jennifer. You're also the author of Entertaining at the White House: Decades of Presidential Tradition. Jennifer, King Charles has been visiting the United States for more than 5 decades. And we know the White House hosts countless dignitaries and leaders from around the world, but the King of England may be the most high profile of the bunch. What goes into planning an event like this?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. And months and weeks of preparation go into an event like this. Any state dinner is one of the most coveted invitations one can receive. But for the royal family, of course, that is the absolute best, and everyone wants to attend. And it is sort of humorous. I love First Lady Laura Bush, was the last one to host his King Charles's mother, and I love that she said after the fact it's rather amusing that more than 225 years after the United States declared its independence from the monarchy of Great Britain, American presidents and their spouses pored over protocol briefing books to ensure they do not make a misstep in addressing the foreign dignitaries. And so they really do. The house has been painted, there's fresh flowers, the food, everything is just absolutely, it's always special at the White House, but this is going to be extra special.
Yeah, and there's some great anecdotes from some of those visits, including a moment with President Reagan. Can you share a few of those stories?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many. There's an entire chapter on Charles when he was Prince, of course, in my book, Entertaining at the White House. But one of my favorites is when he had a meeting with President Reagan in the Oval Office. And President Reagan graciously offered him something to drink, and he asked for a cup of tea. And so they brought him a pot of hot water, a cup with a tea bag, and set it down in front of him. And the conversation just got real awkward. And it was a nice meeting, but he left. And later that evening, President Reagan finally looked at Prince Charles and said, "What happened today at the Oval Office? Why wouldn't you touch your tea?" And he replied, "I didn't know what to do with the little bag." So I thought that was a great story. And other moments from that, of course, the Princess Diana dancing with John Travolta at a state dinner. It's one of the most iconic moments of White House history. And a lot of people think that happened by mistake, and it did not. It was a great example of all of the planning and dedication that goes into these memorable events. First Lady Nancy Reagan actually orchestrated that moment without even John Travolta knowing, to make sure that Princess Diana had that iconic moment in her dress that is now actually referred to oftentimes as the Travolta dress.
Oh, as it should be. I love that picture of them dancing. And, you know, this is interesting because King Charles's visit comes at a time when tensions are high between the UK and the US. And this visit is really an example of the importance of soft diplomacy. Can you think of a moment where this type of soft diplomacy has really changed the course of a relationship with the United States?
Oh, so many. I mean, soft diplomacy, I think sometimes is often underappreciated. But of course, the most iconic moment probably of a state visit having such an impact on the world would be the Reagan administration again, but it was with President Gorbachev of Russia. And you know, Vice President Cheney's wife, Lynn Cheney, actually described, she attended that event, and she said you could actually feel the Cold War melt in that moment. So there's so many moments when we go back through our history where state dinners ended up being so important. The very first one was actually with President Grant and the King of Hawaii.
Interesting. And you've been a part of so many big events at the White House. It's fun to see all the little details that go into just even where they stand for a photo op. Can you give us kind of a few little details that we don't know about?
I mean, the menus, the flowers, everything. The State Department is pouring over books. There is not a single petal that is off. But I did love seeing many of those moments in the press. They were kind of pointing. You can tell that President Trump and King Charles have a very warm relationship. This is actually the second time they're hosting him. I love some of the photos you were showing earlier. That is actually when President Trump hosted then Prince Charles at Winfield House, the ambassador's residence in the UK. But when they were pointing at their cards where it said President and King yesterday, knowing where to stand, in some ways that ties back to the Queen's coronation and Jackie Kennedy covering it as a camera girl back then. And a lot of the different protocols and ideas she got is to bring back to the White House that the royal family has done.
It's been fascinating to watch. Thank you so much, Jennifer Pickens.